What is going on, everyone? Thanks for checking into our latest TDR Cannabis in 5 presented by Dutchie. I'm your host, Shad Dales, and today I'm going to talk about President Donald Trump and cannabis rescheduling, because here is the truth. If rescheduling happens, it's not going to be about health, policy, economic reform, or even criminal justice. It's going to be about politics. Specifically, it's going to be about Trump stealing this initiative from Democrats and turning cannabis into a Republican win. But as with everything in politics, timing is everything, and that is the key question right now. So let's dive into what we can expect next and why I believe, and probably many people in the industry believe, this is all about politics in our latest TDR Cannabis in 5 presented by Dutchie. Let's get into it. So first up, who controls the chessboard? Right now, Republicans control both the House and the Senate. Democrats have no path to pass banking, tax reform, or legalization bills. The only way cannabis moves forward is if Trump himself decides to do it. So that makes rescheduling entirely a White House decision, and that decision won't come down, I think, in science or research. It'll come down to what makes the most political sense for Trump to act. So why do I believe that? Well, cannabis reform, it's long been branded as a Democratic issue. They promised change for years, campaigned on legalization, and appealed to younger voters through it. But now we have President Trump, who has the ability to steal it outright. If he reschedules, the headline isn't about decades of Democratic promises. The headline is Trump modernizes cannabis laws. It's a classic Trump move. It cuts through the process, it grabs the spotlight, and it leaves opponents scrambling to explain why they never finished the job. And that sits well with President Trump. But here's the catch. We all know right now it's timing. Trump knows that rescheduling too soon or in the wrong context could backfire. If you really want to look at this right now, look where we are. The country is still processing the assassination of Charlie Kirk. The political climate is tense, emotions are raw, so making a major cannabis announcement in this moment would look kind of tone deaf. So that's why President Trump in some ways probably hasn't moved yet. He understands that rescheduling has to be announced when the stage is clear, when the focus will be entirely on him, and when the move strengthens his political momentum rather than distracts from it. But let's be honest here, Trump could make the decision tomorrow. He could also make the decision in a few months. The point is, he'll act when the timing amplifies the impact. And right now, I do think the Charlie Kirk assassination has a lot to do with this on why this was pushed back, including our guest from earlier this week, Mark Ahotis, who echoed that same sentiment. It's also important to note that right now, Trump is trending strong with Americans on immigration, crime, and law and order. These are his top polling issues. They play directly into his brand as the candidate of strength and control. So here's the question. Does he risk alienating part of that base by announcing cannabis reform? After all, as we know, cannabis is still viewed by some as a drug issue, and Republicans have historically leaned hard on anti-drug messaging. So really, that's the balancing act right now. The answer may lie in how Trump frames it. He doesn't have to pitch cannabis rescheduling as progressive reform. Instead, he can package it as common sense regulation that supports law and order. So for example, he could say something like, look, we're moving cannabis out of the shadows. We're cutting red tape for veterans and patients. We're also taxing the legal market instead of letting criminals profit from it. And we're also letting police focus on fentanyl and violent crime. This way, Trump doesn't alienate his law and order base, he actually strengthens it. He reframes cannabis not as a dangerous drug, but as a controlled market that makes America safer. And that is the truth. Regulated already. But as much as we look about maybe alienating some of the Republican Party, let's not forget some of the numbers. More than 70% of Americans support some form of cannabis reform. That includes independents and younger Republicans, groups Trump needs to expand his coalition. So even if some traditional conservatives grumble, the broader political upside definitely outweighs the risk. By acting, President Trump positions himself with the majority, but also by waiting too long, he risks missing the window to steal the issue completely. If he makes this decision, this will crush the Dems. There's also the money angle. Rescheduling would eliminate 280E, the tax provision that strangles cannabis businesses with effective rates up to 70%, which we've outlined a few times here. So removing that unlocks billions in capital. Companies expand, jobs grow, and even new tax revenue flows. More importantly, Trump could position himself as the president who saved the cannabis industry, opening the door to a donor base that's been historically Democratic. So that's not really about ideology, it's about political leverage again. Let's also tie in some of the global optics. Internationally, countries like Germany and Canada, they're already moving fast on cannabis. If President Trump reschedules, he can frame it as putting America back in the lead of global market worth billions. Think about the export opportunity. opportunity in the U.S. Canada is taking advantage of that right now, but if there is reform, don't fall asleep on the U.S. when it comes to international exporting opportunities, not only in Europe, but across the world. So saying that plays directly into his America First narrative. Democrats talked, but Trump acted, making sure the U.S. doesn't fall behind. Another reason why Trump might like rescheduling is that it's safe. It doesn't require a congressional vote. It doesn't mean full legalization, which could be controversial, but it does deliver immediate wins, tax relief, better research access, and a political headline that cuts real deep. It's a controlled risk with, let's face it, huge upside potential. And as we know in cannabis, controlling risk and maximizing upside is everything. That's why today's episode is brought to you by Dutchie. Dutchie helps dispensaries streamline their operations, manage compliance, and grow smarter. From online ordering to payments, Dutchie is the platform businesses trust to keep them ahead in a fast-changing industry. And this industry does change fast. Look, if you own a dispensary and you want to learn more, visit business.dutchie.com. So when does Trump pull the trigger? That right now is the billion-dollar question. And right now, the country is focused on immigration, crime, and national security. Trump is pulling strongly there. Making cannabis a move today might feel off a little bit here, especially with the tragedy of Charlie Kirk's assassination dominating headlines over these last few weeks. But Trump doesn't need to rush. He can wait until Democrats could be building momentum on other issues, then cut them off by announcing rescheduling. Or he can wait until he needs a political reset, a moment to shift headlines and, let's face it, seize the attention. So when the timing is right, he's going to act. And when he does, the move won't be about cannabis reform. In my opinion, it's going to be more about politics and stealing this issue from the Democrats and making it a Republican victory. And that alone itself gives him, Donald Trump, the man of action, the transactional president, all the credit. So here's my takeaway here. Cannabis rescheduling will only happen if President Trump sees the political advantage in this. Democrats, they no longer control Congress. And let's face it, they no longer control the issue either. The timing, it has to make sense. And Trump will act only when it amplifies his strength, not distracts from it. But when he does, I believe, yes, it will be about science and business and social justice, but the main priority will be about politics and stealing the issue from the Democrats. This is about rewriting the narrative so that cannabis reform is no longer a Democratic promise, it's a Trump achievement. So that's it for today's episode of TDR Cannabis in 5, presented by Dutchie. I am your host, Shad Dales. Thanks again for watching, and make sure to like, subscribe, and leave your comments below and tell us, if Trump reschedules cannabis, do you see it as a genuine reform or just another headline grab? Love to get your feedback and your takeaways, so let us know what your thoughts are when it comes to this whole idea of rescheduling and how Trump could be viewing this. Until next time, thanks again everyone for watching. This is the TDR Cannabis in 5 presented by Dutchie. So long.